So in this demo, I'm going to be using Claude Desktop. I've created a project already here called Demo Trados PowerShell MCP, and I'm going to be using the chat client rather than the co-work or code for this exercise, because you can just type and have a conversation with it, which is what this is all about. I'm going to be loading through the extensions my MCP server, which is essentially an MCPB file. And to get that, if you don't want to build it yourself, you can see I've already got one called multivarious MCP installed. I want the PowerShell MCP. So to show you where you can get that from, we'll just go over and take a look at the multivarious website, and I'll show you where you can download that from. So if you haven't been and seen it already, this should make it a little bit clearer for you. So in the multivarious site, you go to the localization exchange site, scroll down a little bit, and you should find the multivarious MCP, which is the one that I've already got installed here. You click on that. There's a description. It'll explain to you what it's all about, how it works. And if you go back, scroll across a little bit further to the next page, you should find the Trados PowerShell MCP, which is there. And we need to download that, so you can just add it to the basket, download it. It's free. It's just a compiled version of what's available on the on my GitHub site, because the whole application is open sourced. So I'm going to drag in the MCPB file, which is the installer. That should be recognized immediately like that. You can see all the requirements have been met, so it's correct. We're using version 1.77, and you click on install. Take a couple of seconds, and once it's installed, then you should be able to click on configure and set it all up. The setup is pretty straightforward. Because it's the toolkit, PowerShell toolkits, we're using the modules here for all of this. So you need to put the path for where you've set up your PowerShell toolkit. So if you're not using PowerShell already, this application is not for you. So I'm just putting in the links directly for the Studio toolkit, for the GroupShare toolkit, and for the Language Cloud or Trados Cloud toolkit. And then you can see I've got some links to the GroupShare credential store, which essentially is an encrypted file, saving me having to put in the actual server URLs, GroupShare username, and GroupShare password. And I prefer to work on that basis. I think it's more secure, and I work with multiple servers anyway. And I'll do the same with the Language Cloud credential store, so that's there. You save that, you then go down, allow all the different tools that are part of this MCP server. And when you've done that, you then go back to your project, and you can start. So we'll start off just asking a simple question. We'll start with GroupShare. So we'll try, please can you create a report summarizing the overall usage of one of my GroupShare servers. So that's going to go off. First thing it's going to do is say, okay, which GroupShare server? So it should take a look and help me find which ones I want. So it's going to look at the encrypted files I've got available, and you can see it's found 3. So I've got 3 GroupShare servers I have access to. I'm going to go with the dev server, so I'll take that one first. It can now pick up the credentials from that encrypted file and connect. And then it can go through and start doing all the work it needs to do in order to determine what the usage is like on that GroupShare server. So you can see it's telling you what it's doing, it's going along, which is quite nice. So it gives you an idea of all the things it's going to go through and figure out, all of which you could do yourself using PowerShell, but it would take you a lot longer than this. And you'd have to remember all the commands. Now this also is going a lot quicker than it did in reality. I think this whole video cuts down to about half an hour, and it in real time, to do the whole video took me about 55 minutes. So I've almost half the time by doing a bit of editing and cutting out the waiting time, so make it a little bit more interesting. So I haven't got time almost to explain everything that's going on now because we're going so fast. But you can see it in the video and just watch what's going on and how it's answering and what it's looking for. So we find the details. Now I was going to go and try and find the project templates, and then he'll be able to complete the report. So he thinks he's got everything. He's recognized that actually in my own preferences, I prefer to work with Markdown rather than docx files. It's much quicker and more convenient. So it's created a Markdown file, and there's my report on the usage. So if I go up to the top there, I've got my GroupShare Dev Server usage report, showing me how many projects I've got, organizations, TM containers, how many registered users, roughly how many anyway. It hasn't given me the exact number there. I guess it could have done if I'd asked it. But it's given me just a summary report of how much we're actually doing. So you can see how many projects by organization, which ones are doing the most active work, what language pairs are being used, or what languages are being used, activity over time, TM container names. And an interesting thing you'll find here is that you can't actually see very much from this because all of the names are anonymized. And that's another really important point which I want to address, because particularly when you're working in a demo like this, you don't want to be sharing credentials. So if I just go back to my project settings for a second, our projects, and come down to the instructions on the project, you can set specific instructions in there. And so you can see in this one, I've told it that this is a demo project. So all personal and organizational data that's returned by the tools, make sure you anonymize it all. So it has done, which is good. So I'm not giving away anybody's details, and I haven't got to go cutting everything out. But you can also give it more specific instructions on how you want it to behave. And this is really important because the PowerShell toolkit alone is not enough. The real power with using the MCP is in how you set up your instructions and what you tell it to do. So coming back to this, so let's ask another question. So can you provide recommendations for a regular maintenance program on this server, and also identify the main work that should be carried out immediately? So quite a useful thing as well. You couldn't get this from PowerShell alone. You'd have to go and do this yourself. So the other advantage of using an LLM is you're getting all this other capability thrown in just by virtue of the fact that you're working with an LLM. So there's another good reason to be doing it rather than just working with PowerShell. Never mind the fact you don't need to remember all the PowerShell commands. So it should be fairly quick on that one. This was actually quite quick, this part. So there we go. There's our document. If I just scroll up to the top. And so they're the maintenance recommendations carried out on this particular thing. There's a lot of interesting things in there. I'm sure our support team would like to see some of those, particularly the bits there where the tool actually identified that somebody had put their passwords, a couple of people, in fact, had put their passwords in the description field, which is not particularly secure. I thought that was quite amusing when I read that. We'd never have found that, but the tool has. So that was kind of interesting too. Couple of recommendations for what you should be doing on a regular one based over time. So monthly, quarterly, and biannually. If there's any automation opportunities, and there probably are, you could script a lot of things yourself in order to do things, and then prioritize it in some way. So that was pretty cool. So I could then say that was GroupShare. So I could also say, can I do a similar exercise on a Trados Cloud, so a language cloud tenant that I have access to? So again, we need to go through the same exercise of identifying which is the tenant. So first of all, it's going to have a look at my credentials and see which ones I've actually got credentials for. And on this laptop, I've only got a few on there. 4, in fact. It's anonymized the names pretty much. I'm going to go with the academic partner. Simple enough one. So it's going to activate that by logging in through the credentials, and then it's going to start gathering data. So this is pretty cool. So I've just switched from GroupShare to Trados Cloud within the same application, which is quite nice, without me having to do all the separate logins, understand what I'm doing, grabbing credentials, remembering what the PowerShell commands were for GroupShare versus Language Cloud or Trados Cloud. It's all in there. The toolkits themselves are actually called Language Cloud, which is why I'm flicking between the two. And one of the things I did in the instructions for the project was to tell it that Language Cloud is the same as Trados Cloud. So that also helps when we have name changes. You can just put it in the project instructions and it will take care of everything for you. So it's collected all the information it needs. It's running through. Now it's going to generate the report with the overall usage of the GroupShare servers, and might even give me a bit of a maintenance program as well, all in one. I've been quite unspecific in what I asked it to do there, so it's just come up with its own ideas. Actually, it's created two, so there we go. So it's given me both documents in one go. This was also pretty quick. I guess it had something to work on already. So I've got the Language Cloud Academic Partner Tenant, the usage report. And I've also got the Language Cloud Academic Partner Maintenance Recommendations. A lot less on this one because there's a lot less in here than there was in the GroupShare server, which has got a lot of users. And again, it's all anonymized. In many ways, I like the fact that it's anonymized and its capability to do that so much, because when I've done demos and things before, the amount of time you have to spend going through trying to anonymize data before you can publish it is incredible. Like this, it's a breeze. Just found some interesting things, some stuff to have a look at. Then given us some structural recommendations as part of the maintenance report. Given priority of things to do, same as the GroupShare server, a regular maintenance program, immediate actions you should carry out. So it's pretty much created a very similar report as we got from GroupShare, but all for Trados Cloud. And all of that so far has only taken us about 12 minutes. And that would have been a lot of work if we had to do that manually or compiling the report ourselves. Such is the benefit of using an LLM in order to do all of these things. And if you've got specific formats you want to follow, it's going to take care of that for you. Now let's just take a look through the tenants and see if we can find one using a pricing model. This is really just to give you an idea of what else you can actually do with this. All of the commands that are available in PowerShell, creating projects, creating TMs, all exporting TMX files, whatever it is you want to do, everything that's available in PowerShell is available through here, plus a little bit more. So it's found a project which has got a pricing model. I only asked for one, so it can stop there, which it's done. It's found one for me. So then I could say, okay, I could try to say, because what I'd really like to say is something like, can you increase the rates for pricing model 1, customer alpha, by 5% across all rates, for example. And it would be so cool if it was able to go off and do that. But as you can see, it can't. And the only reason it can't do it is because there's no PowerShell commands available to allow you to do that. So at some point, I imagine there will be a proper Trados MCP built by the R&D team or something like that, which will be far more capable than this is. This is based solely on what's available in the open source PowerShell toolkits, but it does give you an idea of what is possible. But you can only ask it to do things that it's capable of doing. So we'll say thank you for that anyway, and we'll draft an email to the manager that we need to increase the rates by 5% due to the increased costs that are caused by global economic uncertainty. And this is another benefit now you're going to get through using an LLM, because it can connect to all kinds of things. And so in this case, After it's drafted the email, and it's given me two emails here, so it's had a go at two. One was fairly friendly and one is a little bit more detailed, but it also gives me the ability to send the email directly from here. So you can see that it's already got a connection to the send via Gmail button. If I was to click on that, it's going to open up the Gmail with the email already populated in there that I want to send, and I could just click send ready to go. So that's going to save you loads of time as well. You can just edit it from there. The connectors I've got here at the moment is just out of the box, so I've got the Gmail one and an open in mail. But there are connectors for just about every bit of software you've probably got on your computer, so the sky's the limit really there. So we go back to the main project, and this time we'll take a look at Trados Studio. So we'll say create a project for me from Spanish to English using the ESEN Apertium translation memory in Trados Studio. The file for translation is in my C users pool OneDrive documents, just stuff, TGIF, Translators Guide to Intelligent Frameworks, resources, EU examples, and then a file name. It's just an HTML file that I took from the EU website, publicly available. I've taken the Spanish version, that's what I'm translating. I want to show you what Apertium is because this is relevant for what I did here. So Apertium is one of the few old statistical translation methods you can still find on the internet. And you can see how bad things were in those days when it all first started, and their quality is diabolical. So I translated from Spanish to English using this and put it in a TM, and I'm using a TM made up with that content in order to translate the files to begin with. That's the purpose of using Apertium. And we'll see why in a few minutes. So I click go. It's going to go off now and create my project. So to do that, it's got to find the available templates in TM. So it's taking a look at my listing out the project templates. It's found one. Now it's going to look for the TM I want it to use, that specific Apertium TM. It's found that. So then it's going to propose to me the naming convention it's intending to use, some details on there. If I just pull up my Windows Explorer, you can see this is where I'm going to put the file. So you can see there's no project in there for that at the moment. And if I open up Studio, we'll put that up here on the screen as well. I've got no project in Studio at the moment for that either. So we go back to the MCP in Claude, and I'm pretty happy with that. So let's go. It was pretty quick. So it's created it. There's a summary. So now I can open it in Studio. So we're going to take a look. Make sure it's there. You can see it down the bottom there. So the folder has been created. So if we open up that folder and look for the STL_proj file, we should be able to open that up. There it is. We open the project up. Open the file. And there's the file, translated so far by the TM. So you can see there's a lot of varied matches there, where things are not segmented very well, and it's a bit of a mess. There's also missing, in fact, it's an awful mess. And you'll look at if you look at the quality of translations, they're really bad. The English is awful, even if it's somebody who doesn't speak Spanish. And you also see we've got lots of untranslated segments as well. So the first thing I think we'll do is we'll just fill in the gaps. So to do that, I can't do that with the PowerShell toolkit, or I could, but I'm actually going to use the multifarious MCP for that, just to give you an idea of how you can have multiple ones together. So we'll translate the untranslated segments. Before translating, check the current translation status. Use the OpenAI provided with the project prompt, and use a dry run first to tell me the chunk breakdown before proceeding and only translate after I confirm. So I want to show you first of all what it's referring to with the project prompt. So this is the SDLX Refiner. And if I open up the project, which now appears in here, I go to that one, then I look at the project prompt for that. You'll see that each project has its own prompt. It can be customized as you see fit. I'm using the default that's in here, and this is the prompt that will get used. So in order to take advantage of some of the multifarious MCP capabilities, you do need to have the SDLX Refiner installed as an application because it draws on information that's stored in there. The settings for the OpenAI are in this application as well, for example. So that's what it's going to use, the settings that are in there. I confirm it. So it's going to check the current translation status first, look at the project prompt, and it's going to check that and find the translation tool, and then create a dry run. The dry run is always useful with the SDLX Refiner because it gives you a chance to see what it's going to do before it does it. Some of the things you can do with the tool could be quite damaging if you made a mistake, so it's useful to be able to do that dry run. Should be okay with a simple translation. So it's done that and come back and it said, okay, I can do all that in one chunk. It's plenty to be me able to just do it in one go. So it's going to translate it with full context of the document in mind. So I'm going to tell it to go ahead. So it's done that, 23 segments translated in a single chunk using OpenAI GPT-4 with that project prompt. So now we've got all 189 segments have got some sort of target content. Doesn't mean it's very good, but it's all been done. If I open that up, you can see now it's all there. And the ones that were empty before now have a draft status because they've been populated with the translation. So we've done that, but that does beg the question really, how do we address the fact that it's not particularly good? So another advantage of using something like an LLM is it can do all sorts of cool stuff for you. I didn't necessarily program anything in for this whatsoever. This is a benefit you get from using an LLM. So I can say, for example, conduct a translation quality assessment on the first 25 segments, because it'll take a while. Before assessing any segment, read the entire document so you have full context. Then assess each segment against the source, considering fluency, accuracy, terminology, consistency, and register. And for each segment, set the confirmation level to either approved translation or rejected translation. And for every rejected segment, add a comment explaining the specific error. Work through the file systematically and do not assess segments in isolation. And off we go. So first of all, it's going to start by reading the full document for context. This again is a multifarious MCP. So it's done that for the entire document. So it's identified the sort of content that's in there, which is correct. Now it's going to assess segments 1 to 25 systematically. And you can see it's identified comments on all those different segments as it's been going through there. Once it's done that and it's understood what it's going to do next, then it's going to apply the confirmation levels and the comments. Starting with just the rejections. And once it's finished that, it'll just approve the rest. So it's checked it's got the file path right for the set target operations. So it's checked to make sure that's correct and the file is there. Then it's adding the comments for all rejected segments first. And once it's done that, it's just going to set the confirmation levels in bulk. This happens every now and again when you're using an LLM. Depends a lot on the sort of subscription you've got as to how long you can use it for before it runs out of time. But I can just click continue and it'll carry on. So all the rejections are done. There's a quick summary of what it's done. Approved 9 segments, rejected 12 segments, skipped 4 segments. It was structure only. They had no translatable content in there. It's picked out some key patterns, some obvious things that are going on there. Clearly, it's identified that the Apertium is not very good. And if you look in the file when I open it, you can see that I've got comments. So what it's actually done is it's created a comment in every segment that's been rejected. So I can, as a translator, then I can open up the STLX. If I can go in the comment, I can see what or why it was rejected. I think a translator would be horrified if they saw this document, but nonetheless, this is a good. It serves as a good way of getting some results from the from the quality check. I'm using the DSI viewer. If you have not seen that before, on the right, it's from the App Store. It's just a nice, easy way to see the comments segment by segment as you're working through there. It's a bit easier way to see them. So that's quite useful. And I haven't done anything with any particular clever report there. I just gave it some general requirements to make sure things were right. But you can go a little bit further with this. So if I go back to my project and look at the files, you can see I added a file in there called the TGIF methodology, and that's based on this markdown file that I created. I set out Claude to create this for me off the internet. I gave it some information I found in the Trados docs on the scoring system for TGIF, and then I just got Claude to make up the rest. So I've created a document that says this is how the TGIF scoring system works, and then I can drop that in there. So now it has that as project information. I can ask it to do the quality assessment based on some document I gave it, which is also a really cool benefit of using an MCP server like this or an LLM. So now I can say, now that you have this analysis, can you adapt the format to suit the TGIF methodology in the project files, also for the same 25 segments? So what I want it to do now is redo that quality assessment, but this time use a particular methodology. And really that's just to show you another benefit of using the MCP server inside a chat client like this, because you can feed it lots of additional information as you're going along to enhance the way you're working without necessarily having to program it or tell it to do everything. And this is really one of the strengths of using a tool like this. And hopefully this demonstration really is showing you the value to some extent of using something like an MCP server in a chat client. So there we go. So now we have the full TGIF methodology from the project specification. 34 errors logged by category, subcategory, and severity, and then scored through all 4 calculation steps. Needless to say, we failed dismally with that translation. No real surprise there, but it's created the report. It's quite nice. It's given you the information where the files came, the document type, the sample evaluated, so how many rows it's gone through. It's had to do a word count because that was needed as part of that. It wasn't needed for my original quality analysis, but it is for this one in order to do the scoring. So it's done all of that for you in the go without me having to do anything specifically. What's really cool is I was able to do it just on a particular section of the document, and that's also really cool. It's given me all the information in a nice little report there. The translator also has all this information in the comments, so that's also good. But we have it in both places. And that's pretty much it. We failed dismally. Somewhere along here, it's going to tell me I've got a score of probably 0. There we go. Shows us how it calculated the score. The sum of all the penalties. Failed dismally. I could never be a translator. And a full breakdown in something like a Trados TGIF report analysis. It's not the proper way to do it, I'm sure, and it'll be a much more detailed thing, but I just wanted to show you how that might work. I could have picked any methodology, created a document for it, or with publicly available stuff, and just told Claude, okay, use this document that I put in there, that's what I want you to do. You could do this with style guides, you could do it with all kinds of things. If you happen to be using it for translating as well and creating your project, you can just feed that information into the project you set up in Claude Desktop, and it's going to take care of all of that for you. So I hope that was useful and goes a little bit further towards explaining what an MCP server is all about.